Hi everyone, it's Nicole Steele, the owner and designer behind thejoyfulstamper.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and every Saturday I show you how to take the Splitcoaststampers weekly card sketch challenge and I turn it into a card. I show you my version of it. And on my blog, thejoyfulstamper.com, I have the video, I have the written tutorial, step-by-step instructions for making this card so that you can download it to print, save, whatever you want to do. So today, this week's card is using Stampin' Up's ZANY ZEBRAS set, which I think is absolutely adorable. It was tops on my list. Let's get started. We're going to add some rainbows on here too. So the first thing we're going to do is take a Highland Heather piece of cardstock. Now this one is 4 1/4 inches by 11 inches, scored down the middle at 5 1/2. And again, I'm going to have all the measurements in a written tutorial on my blog. And I'll have a link in the description to this video so you can get to it. Now I'm going to take, is this not the teeniest, tiniest stamp ever? Those little stars there? I'm going to take them and I'm going to stamp a border around this card in Highland Heather ink. And I sort of want it, I'm not going to go all the way to the edge of my card. I'm just going to stamp and rotate the star stamp as I go around this card. I just want a fun little border to highlight the rainbow panel that I'm going to have in the middle here. And once I get that rainbow panel made, I will lay it on my card and I'll see if there's any empty spots around it that I can fill in with some more stars. So we're just doing this for now to start. And we can go back later if we want more. My motto for card making is more is more. Okay, so Highland Heather ink on Highland Heather cardstock. So we've got that. Next, we are going to stamp our zebra and his little party hat. I love this little guy. I love the way he's leaping. He's so happy. I'm going to stamp him in Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And by stamping him in Memento Tuxedo Black ink, I can use my Stampin' Blends alcohol markers to color him in without worrying about the ink bleeding. And I'm bringing in a rainbow of Stampin' Blends markers. They're going to match the rainbow stripes of my main panel. So we have dark Granny Apple Green, light Night of Navy, dark Real Red, dark Daffodil Delight, dark Highland Heather, and dark Pumpkin Pie. And there is not any particular order that I'm going in, but I am going to just use the bullet tip of these Stampin' Blends to color in his stripes. And yes, I realize I'm leaving the marker caps off of my Stampin' Blends, which I keep getting told is a no-no with alcohol ink markers, but I'm not leaving them off all that long. It's just to color his stripes in, so it's okay. While I was making this card, do any of you guys remember this bubble gum? It was from my childhood, and I know they still sell it, but it had a zebra on the packaging, and he had rainbow stripes on him, not black and white stripes. But when I was making this card, that's what I kept thinking of. It was my favorite gum ever. I used to buy so many packs of it. So I'm just going to keep going around here, and you'll notice I have my markers laid out in order, and I'm just rotating through them. And now I'm going to go back to the green to color in parts of his mane. And unfortunately, no, there are no dies for the ZANY ZEBRAS stamp set, but that's okay. He's not very hard to cut out, so we can do this. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color this party hat. I'm going to put just little circles of color in there, and we'll fluff out the pom-pom, and then we'll create a little blue for the background, Night of Navy. Okay, Now I will finally cap these on nice and tight so they don't dry out. You don't have to treat your stamping supplies like precious jewels. They're meant to be used. So go ahead and use them. If you notice when I am stamping, my blocks are not the cleanest. They can be cleaned. If you need to clean your clear blocks, you can just wash them with dish soap and hot water. But I have to admit, I always forget to do that. So I'm not real good about that. I pretty much wait until my stamps stop sticking to the blocks, and then I say, okay, it's time to give them a bath. And then I just use regular dish soap and hot water, and then they're good as new. I know some people will use hand sanitizer to get them clean. Apparently that's really good at getting glue off of them if you happen to get gunky stuff stuck to them. I've never tried hand sanitizer, but I know people that swear by it. So you can see I'm just using my paper snips to go around him. Uh-oh, my dog's gonna bark here in a second. She heard my husband come in from his office on the porch, and she thinks it's somebody coming into our house. She's a little dog, so you know how little dogs are. They tend to yap at a lot of stuff. Okay, and this party hat. Yeah, it's small, but we can do it. Okay, I got it. Now we have those pieces set aside. I also die cut a stitched oval from the Stitched Shapes dies, and I believe it was the second smallest oval. And then I also cut a piece of basic black cardstock, and I embossed in white embossing powder Wild About You. It's a sentiment from the ZANY ZEBRAS stamp set. Those are going to go in our card at the end. Now, to create this parallelogram, so this week's sketch was a parallelogram. So to create that, I cut a 4 1/4 inch by 4 inch piece of Whisper White cardstock. So it's not quite a square. And on my grid paper here, I'm going to use the measurements because I want to make sure that my 4 1/4 inch length is going vertical and my 4 inch length is going horizontal. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is grab a pencil, and I am going to measure 3/4 inches in from the bottom right. And I'm going to make a little pencil mark. Then I'm going to measure in 3/4 inches in from the top left and make another little pencil mark. And then I'm going to get a paper cutter, and you can use either a guillotine style or you can use the blade tracks. And I'm going to line up this corner here, the top right corner, with the pencil mark in my bottom right. I'm going to line those right on my paper track there, and I'm going to cut it. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this opposite side. I'm going to align the pencil mark on the top left edge of the cardstock with the bottom left corner of the cardstock. So align those two in that paper track there and cut. And when you do that, you'll have your parallelogram. Okay. Get those pieces aside. Now we can glue down our rainbow strips. So what I did was cut 6 inch by 6 inch by 1/2 inch pieces of colored cardstock. So I've got Real Red, Gorgeous Grape, Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, Granny Apple Green, and Pacific Point. And I'm just going to use multi-purpose liquid glue to start gluing them down to my paper. Now, to make sure that you get it the way you want it, you might want to just go ahead and lay it out first, just to get a rough idea of where you want to place everything. I think we'll do green next, and then we'll do Pacific Point, and then we'll do Gorgeous Grape. Okay, so now I see that I want to move it up a little bit. Okay, so now I have it. Now I can start just gluing it down. And I'm just going to put a little skinny line of glue just like this. And I will put my strip down. This sort of reminds me of the herringbone technique. for making a card. Whenever I have lots of scraps of pattern paper or designer series paper left and I don't want to throw them out, I will cut them into skinny strips, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch wide in varying lengths depending on the scraps I have left, and I will just glue them in patterns onto a piece of Whisper White cardstock. And it's a really good way to use up your paper scraps. I have a blog post actually, I think last Christmas on the herringbone technique. I made a couple Christmas cards using it. Okay, another thin line of glue. This is actually another good technique for using up cardstock scraps because there's skinny little strips of paper and you can create you don't have to stick to the traditional Roy G. Biv rainbow colors either. You can use whatever rainbow colors you want. Okay, we have that glued now. Now you can see it's hanging off the edge of my cardstock quite a bit. I'm just going to take some paper snips and I'm going to trim off that excess. You can also use your paper trimmer to do this. I like the control I have though when I use my paper snips. If I were to use my paper trimmer to do this, I guarantee I would cut into my main panel here. Sometimes I can be a very clumsy stamper. Get those all around, pushed aside. Okay, so now we have our rainbow. Now we can start assembling our card. So I'm going to check to make sure I have stars showing. So I can see that I'm pretty happy with that. So I don't have to stamp any more stars. And I'm gluing everything flat to this card. So let's just put some liquid glue on the back. And I'm going to use these because I have a tendency to make these kind of shapes to glue them on crooked because of these angled lines. So I'm going to use the grid lines on my grid paper here to make sure that I am getting this on straight. Okay, I think I move it over a little bit more. There we go. And now we'll put on the stitched oval. And that's going to go on the side right here. And now my zebra and his little hat are going to get put on with Stampin' Dimensionals. And of course the hat is going to have a mini dimensional because it's so tiny. But we can use regular dimensionals for the zebra. And this Wowed About You piece, because part of it's going to be on here and part of it's going to be off, I'm only going to put a dimensional on the back of the right side of this. Oh, actually, no. I'm going to put a dimensional on both sides. Sorry about that. And now it's time to put everything on. So we have the Wowed About You sentiment. And when I put this on, I'm not pressing down very hard, just in case I want to pull it back up to rearrange it after I have the other elements on. I have glue on my fingers so the little dimensional pieces are sticking to it. Okay, we're going to put him there and put his little party hat on. I love this little party hat. And we'll put that right there. Okay, now the last touch is going to be some daffodil ribbon. In the annual catalog, we have a spool of Daffodil Delight ruched ribbon. I'm using some daffodil ribbon that was from a previous catalog, but they're both Daffodil Delight, so they will work. All right, now I'm going to trim it. And I like to attach my ribbons with glue dots. So we'll stick that on right there. Okay, let me bring in my original card. There you go. So that is this week's Splitcoaststampers card sketch, my take on it at least. If you can head over to my blog, the link's in the description to this video if you want the written directions for this. And if you need any of the supplies to make this card, I would love to have you shop my store, shopwithnicole.stampinup.net. I would so appreciate your business. Thank you for joining me this morning, guys. And just watch next week for my next week's Saturday sketch video. Bye.